there's that panic. We've all had it. Like I remember always feeling like I need to get these kids ready for the challenge of third grade, and so there'd be that freak out moment.
Like, hear more about how you feel about math at the end of the year, how you feel about yourself as a math learner, than a bunch of stuff that you might have learned. I'm more interested in you walking out seeing like, I feel good about math. Welcome back to another episode of the Educators Mathcast. I am here with Mike, and we are going to be talking about the end of the school year. It is late May when we are recording this, and we know some of our friends are maybe in the last week of school right now, but others are winding things down with the last 3 weeks or so. Many of you are finishing up maybe state testing. There's probably a spirit week being thrown in here for some reason. You've got assemblies going on. You've got end of year parties. All this stuff is happening at one of the most difficult times of the school year. And Mike, I just want you to kick us off here and let's talk about, what can teachers be doing right now? What can we be doing from a math standpoint in this moment to not just make this about wrapping up at the end of the year, cramming some math packets down their throats, giving them stuff to keep them busy. What can we be doing right now to really engage kids in math?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'll say is we've done, I think you and I've done a session on this for, I think Kyle and John or Christina. I can't remember which summit or whatever, but there's what I call the jettisoned topics, right? As we're so busy in the school year, and that we prioritize the number and operations work and everything. And I always see the units on geometry and measurement sort of kick down the road, oh, we'll get to that later. It's least important, right? We don't actually agree with that, but it's oftentimes the thing we forget about. And so the very first thing I always think about as we wind down is to think about what are those units that get pushed toward the end of the year and are usually squeezed, and we try to rush through it. One thing I always loved doing was actually digging into that content with my students, because measurement and geometry are also chock full of really fun, rich tasks. It's very hands-on. It's a very exploratory. Any curricular resource I've used has always had some interesting projects and things to do around measurement, like measuring your jumps, or measuring like launching catapults and how far things can go, and looking at non-standard and standard units, and whatever your grade level is. There's a wide variety of really interesting work that can happen. I used to get excited about the end of the year to get into those units because that's where they naturally showed up. And I really just that was an exciting time. So that's my very first one, is to just keep the pace going with what you've been doing, but really embrace those two big concepts that tend to get shoved at the end of the year. What about you, Zach?
Yeah. I guess my first thing I'll say is something that I would suggest not doing, which is this is not the moment to cram in everything that you didn't think you got to, right? Don't abandon all the good math teaching you've done this year to try to cram in all this stuff that we think they're going to remember when they get to 5th grade or 4th grade, whatever it is the next year, right? It's been my experience that doesn't help anybody. It frustrates me as a teacher. It frustrates the kids, and it doesn't feel very joyful. What I think I would like to use this time as, this is the moment we all want all year long, right? Again, state testing is either almost done or done, right? Every excuse you had, myself included, I'm not pigeonholing right here, but every excuse I had of well, I can't do that because X, Y, and Z, because the test is coming, because I have to do this, or because there's a field trip next week, or whatever it is. Those are all out the window, man. You got 3 weeks of time. Just make this be joyful and playful. All of the tasks that you wanted to do, but maybe felt a little too ambiguous, or a little too not in the lane you need to be. This is the moment to play with those tasks. Get those out and enjoy them.
So this is an interesting thing when we work with teachers, right? So when I'm in schools, I'm working alongside all different grade levels, and there's this conversation at the start of the year, at the end of the year, usually around when do you introduce new routines and things. I might come to a district in May or in March or February or something, and if I'm introducing some new routines or some new practices or things, the conversation pivots to is it too late to introduce it now, this year, because we're winding down? Should I wait until next year? And I often say the best time to do this, to introduce something, is last at the beginning of the year, right? And the second best time is today, whatever time that is. Yeah. And the reason is let's say you have 3 weeks left and you've never done a math talk routine, whether it's like an estimation or mystery something, or if it's a number talk image or whatever it is. Like if you've never done one, like I think one of the easiest times to do it is toward the end of the year when you have your class that you've got all the routines and you've got the community sort of built. You've got an audience that you've got such strong relationships built with those students. This is a great time to say, hey, I'm going to try something new I've never done before. I'd love your feedback. I'd love, like, let's play around with this and involve the kids, because they can also let you know like what they liked about it, or like what if there was something that was tricky for them. And I think it's a really great opportunity to try out some new things you've never done before, because you've got a good community established, and it makes it easier, which then could give you a chance to refine some of your processes over the summer,
Huh?
and then you can launch the next school year like hitting the ground running with what you've learned from your last group.
Mike, I've spent a lot of years with you and I've never heard this. And I think it's really brilliant. I feel like a lot of times, like we've had cyclical conversations about a lot of things, but this is a really great idea that I've never heard of. And I think it has a really good rationale, which is, yeah, you not only do you have all this routines built with your class, but it lets you as the teacher have a moment to refine some of it, right? There's not the pressure of like, I got to get it right because they got to know this thing. It's just sort of like, try something out, see how it goes. I love that suggestion. I love that. I was going to also suggest, you mentioned estimation. This is such a fun time for estimation tasks. I think one of the things that I did at the end of the school year with my kids, we had done so many mysteries. Shout out to Steve Wyborny, our friend and colleague in Oregon, out there doing the big work, giving you free mysteries. If you haven't done those, we'll put a link to it in the show notes. You should check it out. But we had done so many mysteries in my class. And one of the things I did is I just gave my kids glass jars, and I gave them all the stuff we had, the math manipulatives, all the things. And I also gave them paper clips, all this stuff. And I said, make your own mystery. And they did. And they took their own pictures, and we put them up the next morning, and we got to use our classes as mysteries. It was such a fun way to leverage a leverage a routine that we all knew how to do already, but let the kids get in the driver's seat. Let the kids be in charge of, like, it's like letting kids be in charge of the math as opposed to like the math being in charge of them, right? So we're putting them in the driver's seat to do it. So I love that suggestion too. What else you got for us, Mike? You got some other ideas we can do at the end of the year here?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think one of the things that you mentioned are like sort of the cautionary thing around like that cramming things in, right? There's that panic. We've all had it. Like
Yeah.
I remember always feeling like I need to get these kids ready for the challenge of third grade, and
Yeah.
so there'd be that freak out moment. And again, we all know that tends to, when if you start teaching like a fire hose and you're just like blowing everyone away with all this information, it's not helpful for anyone. No one really enjoys it. However, I will say this. There is that genuine concern of like, all right, it's toward the end of the year. There's some key concepts in fourth grade, fifth grade, ninth grade, whatever it is,
Yeah.
that you're worried maybe that some kids could use some. You want to be able to like meet with some of your students that are having some difficulty with some concepts to try to button some things up, give them some more experiences. And one of the things that I found really helpful was that over the course of the school year, we had developed lots of games, lots of really rich
Yeah.
math games that were part of the curriculum resource we're using. Plus, I had some other ones that I brought in that were really fun, that we didn't often have a lot of time to really dig into that. And so I would often use the last few weeks when I could to have sort of like a math workshop scenario where we've got opportunities for kids to play different math games. It's not just a free for all. Like it's pretty structured and organized, but that it allowed us to get some practice. So the kids playing the games are getting lots of practice with different like math facts or different problem solving techniques, whatever it is that we're doing. They're going through that while also giving me some time to do some targeted work with students that I do have some concerns about. I want to make sure that we end the school year on a high note for them. And this the approach though is that really strong pedagogical way of doing this that meets the kids where they are. It's still using all those effective teaching practices, making those meaningful connections, but like the end of the year affords that time for some of that more workshop design, and it allows me to sort of kind of tamper down that anxiety you get at the end of the year where you're like, oh, these kids haven't mastered this thing yet, and so I feel that's a really good way to approach it.
That's a great practical suggestion. I think that's really good. I think, you know, it At this point of the year for me, it was always like, I want them. I've said this to you before. Listeners have heard me say this before. I care more about the year I get with you. I care more about how you feel about math at the end of the year, how you feel about yourself as a math learner, than a bunch of stuff that you might have learned. I'm more interested in you walking out, seeing like, I feel good about math, right? So like, this is that moment, right? Like, build up their confidence, like give them some stuff they can do to learn some new things. Tell them how much it's going to help them next year, right? But ultimately, like, use these last couple of weeks to like make sure they're walking out the door, seeing themselves as a math learner, seeing themselves in the math classroom, seeing math as something that's joyful and exciting and that they're looking forward to. This is that last moment to tie up that bow, make sure they're walking out feeling good about math so that they will show up next year. If you show up to the next school year, seeing yourself in that space, you're so much more likely to engage in the work when it becomes challenging, right? If you know I can do this, or you believe you can do this, you're going to keep working at it. If you leave the end of the school year thinking, well, I didn't learn anything last year, the last 3 weeks were awful, I had to struggle through all this stuff, and like, I really want them to walk out feeling good, because that's going to set them up for success next year.
That actually brings to mind, I'm glad you brought that up, because the one other end of year thing that I think is really important that nails what you're just talking about here is, so portfolios, grabbing student work all throughout the year is really important. And one thing that there's never time to do when we're trying to just cover everything is to actually sit down and like go through our portfolios with the kids, right? So this idea, like, everyone's sort of in their space where they're learning, right? So we have a range of learners. Kids come in who are already been thinking about math that's beyond the grade level you're in. We have kids that are sort of emerging with ideas, and so it can sometimes feel as a student that at the end of the year, you may not be at a place where you see some of your peers, and you may be like thinking that you're not good at this subject. And what I find is always transformative is if every student has an opportunity to look at the work from the very beginning of the year, I always love grabbing just sort of different problem solving examples from the beginning of the year. Yeah. Not too much, right? It can be overwhelming and stuff. Just a couple of key ones. But if we were to take out the work from September and then take out the work from May or June or whatever, and compare sort of what's different, every student sees significant growth. It's their own path, and it's not done publicly for everyone to see everyone else's growth. It's done individually. But that can be really powerful. It's a great use of this time, and it ends the year on a high note because we can celebrate everyone's journey and the growth that they made, which then goes into that whole like math identity that you were just mentioning. And like, I think it's a really good opportunity to do that. And it's worth at the end of the year to send those home, to send like the September and the June work, so that families can also celebrate that and see just how much progress was made, because it can feel like at the end of the year that I when I taught second grade, I had some kids that still weren't necessarily using a lot of numerical strategies with addition and subtraction. They could feel like, wow, like it's like they're going to third grade and they're not quite there yet. But then you go back and look at the portfolio, and it's like they didn't have stable order counting when they came in. Like they couldn't count 46 objects like and organize them in a way in September. But now they're solving multi-digit problems and using base 10 blocks or base 10 drawings. But that's a significant leap from where they came in. And it's just a chance to celebrate.
I totally agree. I think this is a great time for reflection, right? I think that's what you're getting at right here. I'll just mention one of the things that we're really good at, I think, in elementary schools is sending home writing samples from the beginning of the year, the end of the year. Like, we should do this in math too, right? Like, they should see, parents should see, kids should see where they started and where they're at now and how they're thinking about it. One other thing I'll give you, I'm a big fan of, we did opening meeting and closing meeting every day. Like, we sat in a circle on the carpet. And this time of year is kind of hard to have new prompts. Like, you've asked all the questions, but like, I think a fun one is like, what's your favorite math moment of the year? Like, think about the whole year. What's a great mathy thing that you remember, right? Like, that reflection this time of year is really helpful. And I think that gives you some information as a teacher too. It's like, what resonated with kids this year? What were the things that we did in mathematics that like stuck with them all the way to the end of the year? So that's one last tip. Mike, you got anything else for us for teachers right now?
No, I think that I love it. That's a great one to end on too. I didn't even think about that, but it does give you so much information, right? What things were brought up as the highlights, and also what things weren't brought up. And if you do this multiple years, like what things are never brought up, right? And yeah, it's interesting. Good data.
Probably not those in the unit tests. Those aren't going to be brought up as highlights, but yeah, they're necessary. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We hope you enjoyed this episode. What are we forgetting? What are you doing in these last few weeks to help your kids have these joyful, memorable math experiences? Let us know. Find us on the socials, and we will see you next month. Take care, everybody. This show is powered by the Friends of Flint Education Collaborative for pre-K through 8th grade educators with live learning, ready-to-use resources, and a supportive community. Members get early access to the episodes and other bonuses.